just be available on our website. And let's get started. So before I get started, I just want to tell you a little bit about the Dan River Basin Association. We are a nonprofit organization protecting the waterways and the cultural and natural resources within 3,300 square miles. We have about 8 counties in North Carolina and 8 counties in Virginia. We do this through 3 major goals: recreation, education, and stewardship. You see a lot of programs and services that we offer, and you can learn about all of these things on our website. Please help us preserve and promote these wonderful and unique resources of our region. You can visit us at danriver.org, become a member, see all the great things that we do. And with that, I am going to stop sharing and ask Gordon Allen to join us and start sharing his screen and get started.
Hello, Tiffany, and let's see if we can get this going properly. I should hit that share
Screen.
Yay! Can you see it?
We can see it. Thank you so much.
Hallelujah.
All right, Gordon, I am going to go on mute, but I will be following the chat box as we get started. And so if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A box or the chat box at the bottom of your screen, and I will do my best to get your questions answered. So with that, I am going to go on mute. Go ahead, Gordon.
Well, look, thank you, Tiffany, and I'll tell you, my name has been spelled Gordon more often than a Gordon, and sometimes I even spell it that way, but anyway. Well, look, here is the picture of the Dan River Basin, and when I first moved to Rockingham County years ago, I was told that, man, you're living in a great location. You can get to the mountains from here, and you can get to the coast from here. But it didn't take me very long to realize that there were a lot of features about the Dan River Basin in this region that I absolutely loved. And with all the rivers and all the other activities that you can, see along, it's just, to me, it's been a photographer's paradise. You'll just see so many different wildlife, and then of course this is Mabry Mill, and what I can say about Mabry Mill as a photographer, it's the most photographed site on the Blue Ridge Parkway. And if you're a photographer and you're taking that and you just hope that you take a grand picture, and this was following a winter storm up there. The Blue Ridge Parkway was actually closed, and I was coming back from somewhere, maybe up in Roanoke, and just on a fluke, I decided to go up there to see if I could get on. There was no traffic. I slipped down there, took this photograph, and it just turned out to be one of my favorite photographs. There's nobody else there. The sun just peeked through from some clouds and gave me a great shot. But this is one of the features that you'll find in the Dan River Basin. It just makes it so appealing. These are some other sites. This is a train that I was following the winter storm last year, I think it was, or a year before. After the storm, I was around Reedsville, just taking some shots. Saw a train coming through town. Well, I had scouted out this location about 2 or 3 months before, and I was wanting to get a good train shot. And so I jumped on ahead, went down the road. They were going really, really slow because they had to stop and repair take the fallen limbs off the railroad tracks. So I got ahead of it, got on the bridge there. It's up near Pelham. Just turned out to be one of my favorite shots. This is a shot of Falls Creek as it flows into the Mayo River. It's below Falls Creek Falls in the Mayo Park. Just happens to be another one of those times when you're out and you just discover a great shot. I stood there for about 5 minutes just in awe of what I was seeing, and it just turned out to be a really great photo that I love. This is railroad track somewhere up in the northeastern part of Rockingham County if you're coming out of Eden, and it's what I call nature's reclaim. Here's some other shots just that you'll find. I love these monarch butterflies. You find a lot of butterflies, this time of year, even around. I found some up on a trail in Virginia not too long ago. This is a field of buttercups on Highway 87. Actually, the story behind that was these butterflies were taken at Chickapin Trail. And while I was taking that, somebody asked me, had I seen the flowers at Governor Moorhead Park in Eden? And they said, you'll love it. Go on up there and check it out. So I was headed that way when I saw this field of buttercups. This is near Hilltop on 87. This sunflower is on the Smith River Greenway when the city of Eden had the sunflower fields, and just turned out to be a great shot for me. This is on the road going to Hanging Rock. This is apparently one of the peaks, and I'm not sure, I know somebody else could identify the name of that. It might be Moore's Knob or whatever. But anyway, just went down the road after I went by it and realized what I'd seen and how clear it was. So I backtracked and pulled over and got that shot. And this is Hanging Rock. This happens to be one of my favorite shots of Hanging Rock. Again, it's one of those things, if you take a photo of a
We seem to have lost Gordon. Okay, I apologize. We're going to give him a few minutes to come back on. It seems he has lost connection. Just give me a few minutes. I'm trying to reach Gordon right now. Just give us a few minutes, sit back, get yourself something to drink or eat, and we'll see if we can get him back on in just a few minutes.
Am I back with you yet?
All right, good.
All right, let me do this.
Let's just get back to that photo. There we go. We were at Hanging Rock. There you go. Perfect. Thank you so
All right.
much. Sorry about that, folks. He lost power for a moment. So go ahead and continue on.
So this is Hanging Rock, and it's one of my favorite shots I think that I've ever taken. And this was really recent. And this is what I love about photography. I've been doing photography since I was 10 years old. And I took this photo probably 2 weeks ago, and it's absolutely one of my favorite photos. I think because I actually survived the climb up, which makes it more endearing. But you know, it's again one of those things. If you take a photo of a really photographed site, you really want to try it. You hope it just turns out great. And for me, this is I just really like it. So, and of course, these are some other sites along the in the Dan River Basin. This is a recent cleanup that Darber and some other groups sponsored, I think, but Darber was I think mainly behind it. And on the Smith River, this is y'all may know Jenny Edwards, and this is again one of my favorite shots. Just captured her in a really special moment. I think this is when a group of us were going down near Danbury on the river there. This may be at the Lindsay Bridge access. That's Wayne during the cleanup day. This is somebody from, I just shot from the Mebane Bridge there in Eden. And speaking of Eden, when I retired from the Employment Security Commission after 36 years and just went to visit a friend, Cindy Adams, at the City of Eden just to catch up. When I walked in, she said, "Hey, I am so glad you dropped by. We're looking for a photographer to do some wildlife and outdoor stuff, featuring the rivers, Dan River and the Smith River in Eden." And they wanted to promote the small town, big outdoors motto. So I said, "Well, look, I'll think about some." And I was already up there, and I was out on the old trestle over the Smith River. This bald eagle flew over my head that afternoon, and I took that as a sign that I should accept that project. So I called Cindy and said, "Look, yeah, I think I'm in." And as it turned out, I just absolutely love that project. If you ever, at City Hall, in the City of Eden, there's a permanent display. It took a year. We took a year to do the project. I split things up into the 4 seasons, and you'll see one of these walls for each season. But I just really enjoyed it. This is the Island Ford there at Smith River Greenway after one of the snows. This is a mink that was off the Dan River over near Mebane Bridge. I heard some rustling of leaves, thought it was a squirrel. Looked down there and just couldn't believe it. This is Great Blue Heron. He was somewhere up on the Smith River. And this turtle, I think the reason I like this turtle so much is his colors were so vivid, and just the light just caught him so well. So anyway, he was in it. This is a mallard after a big snow and ice, and I was on the Smith River as you're going out of the City of Eden. This is a green heron that is over at Oak Hills Golf Course. This red-bellied woodpecker are found over at Leaksville Landing on that trail there. Now, some of my early influences were growing up on the Currituck Sound, and my parents both enjoyed outdoors. My mother grew up on a farm. My dad was always an adventurous type. He was our family photographer. Anytime we went on vacations, he was always taking photos or family reunions, things like that. And I was always picking up his camera, even at the age of 7 or 10, and taking photographs, and I always, wondered why he never said anything, or if he got a chuckle out of those blurred squirrels or rabbits frogs that I was trying to, capture. But I would come home, run by the house. We actually did live on that dirt road that you had to walk about a mile to get to the bus pickup. But our backyard flowed back up to the Currituck Sound, and I always would go almost every afternoon. I throw my books on the steps, run down to the fields, sit out there, and just watch the waterfowl fly into our fields. This is not from the Currituck Sound, but it's some recent photos down at Pungo Refuge. These are tundra swan, and in the background, those are thousands and thousands of snow geese. But this was what I was see when I was growing up, and I was always fascinated by it. I always watched their habits, listened to their sounds and all that. And I think that's what sparked my interest in wildlife growing up there. And I was always late for dinner, and my mother and daddy never asked me what I did that day, and they never complained about me being late for dinner, but they always asked me what I saw. And that's where I began telling the stories of what I had seen that day. And I hope that my photography does tell stories. This is a field down in Pungo, and I knew where the snow geese were going to go that afternoon, or I hoped I knew, and I actually got in there before they started flying in. And this is just one of those wondrous sights if you're a photographer that you just, you hope you ever get to see. And of course, the body out of the lighthouse. Some people say, boy, that was a lucky shot. And I tell you what, I don't think we get lucky shots. I actually spent about 4 years trying to get this shot. Every time I'd get down there trying to get the light at night, it would cloud up or either, be raining or just couldn't do it. And, about 2 years ago, just happened upon it at the very right moment. Took a lot of shots that night, and this was the one that I really liked. But, growing up in that area, I think that's what got me interested in wildlife and landscapes and stuff like that. And, I hear a lot about, especially, I'll show you some photos here in a minute, a bear that's pretty close up. And, I hear people say, boy, you must have a really powerful zoom lens. I think that the thing for a successful photographer is trying to get close and study the habits and put the effort in to get close. But I do have powerful lens, and this is one of them. This is a 150 to 600 zoom lens. This is a 70 to 300 zoom lens. These are wide angle lens for landscapes. And then there's this lens is a 105. It helps you get, it's called a micro lens. It helps you get close-ups of insects and wildlife, stuff like that. I sometimes joke about, to be a really good photographer, you really need to have a cool camera bag. If you don't have a good camera bag, maybe you don't even get off the bus. But anyway, And the reason I say that, I've had some people that, you know, when I go to some festivals and powwows, things like that, and there are folks, they say, we knew it was you, we noticed your bag. So I want to say something about, you know, when you get into digital photography, when I was asked to share some information about photography, to have some tips and things like that. The one thing that you really need to focus on or learn about is the exposure triangle. And that is when you have your aperture, shutter speed, and your ISO, which this allows light into your camera. This, of course, determines the speed of your shutter. If you want this affects your depth of field, the aperture. If you want a blurred background, and I'll when I get to some photos, I'll tell you, you really want your aperture opened as wide as it will be, whatever lens you're using. And but if you get these three things working in harmony, then you've learned the secret about digital photography. And a lot of people get frustrated with digital photography. I didn't know that I would embrace the digital photography when it first came out, and it took a long time to, you know, dial it in, to tell you the truth. Now, the other thing about cell phone cameras, they're incredible right now. There's a lot of advantages to both your, like a cell phone camera and a digital camera. I get what I feel like are really super landscape photos and portrait photos with a cell phone camera, and I can do really quick videos. If a lot of people that, you know, if you're friends with me on Facebook, you'll notice some of the videos that I post. Those are mostly done with a cell phone camera, and everybody's got a cell phone now. And so when you're on rivers and things like that, and just be careful, don't lose them. But you know, but what you can't do with a cell phone, which allows me to do with a digital camera, is, you know, birds in flight, anything that's got a lot of motion. And I can zoom with a digital camera much better than I can with a cell phone camera. The quality of the pics when I try to zoom with the cell phone camera kind of deteriorates. But with the digital cameras, you know, and of course, again, for some, going the wrong way. For some, you've got to reach out in order to get some wildlife. It's just, you can't do it. My top 10 photography tips, this is not everybody's top 10, but these are mine. And one is to shoot with a buddy. There's an old African saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I find having an extra set of eyes really helps a lot of times, especially when you're trying to get, you know, certain types of photography and subjects. Be willing to go. You absolutely have to have a desire to go. If it's hot or cold, early or late, you just have to have that will to go out and search and seek in all kinds of conditions to capture some rewarding shots. The other thing that I do is observe the subject. I see a lot of photographers when we get out on a like in the Alligator River Refuge and we see a bear, they want to advance towards the subject. And I tell people all the time, if you'll just wait and observe for a little bit, see what their habits are, and see what they're doing before you go towards them, I also do a lot of research. One of my favorites saying, I think it was Louis Pasteur, said, "Chance favors the prepared mind." Yeah, so research, there's a lot of research. You can Google everything nowadays. Be patient, quiet, anticipate, and be ready. Eat before you go, carry a power bar with you, some water. The very worst thing is getting on a hot spot and you run out of energy, desire, you get hungry. And you can't always count on the great light when you go. Just one of the best advice I ever got was from a photographer with Smithsonian Institute. He told me, and he traveled the world, and he was a world-renowned photographer, and I was always trying to pick his brain. And I just said, you know, what's the very best advice you can give me? He said, go often and go again and shoot a lot. You just need to shoot a lot and evaluate what you're doing. Also, you want to know your gear. Learn how long your battery lasts, know how to make adjustments on your shutter speed, things like that. But you really need to get to know your gear. You can get so frustrated when you're out in the field and you just can't get it dialed in. Also, check your gear before you go. Is your battery charged? Are you carrying an extra battery card? Or another card or an extra battery? Are your lens on vibration control, or have you touched something that's altered something? Also, have a plan. Know what you want to do. If you're going out to shoot butterflies, make sure you got the right lens and that kind of thing. A lot of times I'll take off for the mountains to go look for elk. Conditions aren't right, so I go find waterfalls. I carry in my bag at least a wide angle lens, a zoom lens, and a micro lens. I always have them with me. And if I need to make an adjustment, but if I'm going out for, you know, bees and dragonflies and birds, probably going to start with a zoom lens, and then I'm going to see what kind of activity I get into. And sometimes you can, you know, get to a micro lens if they are so focused on their feeding and stuff like that. The golden hour is the preferred time that I like to shoot the most, but it's not going to stop me from going in the middle of the day. You know, recently I got a late start on something, ended up, got one of the best photos that I've ever made, and we're going to get to it a little bit later. But photographing during the golden hour is the first hour of daylight and the last hour of daylight. And the lighting is so good during those hours, you really, it contributes towards capturing some really good shots. The last thing is try to shoot eye level. It's in the element of the photo that gives life to a subject. And the closer you are to an animal, like an elk or bear or whatever, the more important this becomes as the depth of focus increases and the levels of focus on the subject. Sometimes using a single autofocus point and moving it to the eye of the subject can produce a striking composition. I can remember the very first moment, a bear walking towards me, and he looked directly into the lens. I could see his eyes trained on me. And I often wondered what that bear was thinking at that moment. And this is that bear. I watched that bear walk towards me for about 75 yards. And I realized after a while that I was looking through a lens, a zoom lens. I lost how close I was actually to that bear, or how close he was to me. But this was the last shot that I got of him. And I had changed my autofocus to a single point, and I had put it right on his eye. And then I looked over my camera to see how far I was from him and realized that I needed to back up a little bit. And I was actually standing on the path that he was coming down. And this was one of the things I always tell photographers: let the subject go where they want to go, and they'll usually just walk by you and stuff like that. The other thing I found is really helpful is to pick a theme for a day or a week or whatever, and that a lot of times will dictate what type of gear you take with you, and it gets you focused. These are some of the themes this summer. There was a organization that was up in Virginia that had a thing about insects. So that triggered to me. Just I stayed focused on them for a month or so. It just had a really great time. Of course, this is a hummingbird moth. I think this is an assassin bug. The other thing that I really enjoyed when I'm walking on the trails around, in the Dan River Basin, is all the different flowers and blooms and that you get exposed to. And these were taken with a micro lens where I could get really close and try to really capture the essence of it. This is one of the moments where, when you're quiet and still and observe what the subjects are doing, then maybe it works out for you. This dragonfly was, I was 10 or 15 feet from it, and it kept going back to this plant, this bulb or whatever. And so I just inched closer and closer and closer. And finally, I had a micro lens and I was just feet from it. And it came back again. And it's just, I don't know, that shot just really tickles me. These are some other close-ups with micro lens. And this hummingbird moth, I started out with a zoom lens, trying to get it, and I've always wanted to try to get closer and closer. So it was going in a clockwise motion around this butterfly bush. And so I just positioned myself, and as it came around, by the end I had gotten really close to that bloom, and it was cooperative enough to where he went right to it. So for these shots, I use a wide angle lens. This is on the Mayo River. Of course, this is on the Chickapin Trail. This is Turkey Pond at Chickapin Trail. This is another one of those shots where you have to be willing to go, whatever the conditions are. And for some reason, I just love this tree. It's out on Board Road in Rockingham County. And I actually photographed this tree in all seasons just to see the changes. And so on the snowy day, as I was going by, I was going like, wow, more landscape. This is Hanging Rock Lake. I love it when it's a cloudy day and the reflection really contributes to that photograph. This is one of the trails at Hanging Rock, foggy or in the clouds. I felt like probably in the clouds with that elevation, but and that fog just really contributed to this photo. Red-bellied woodpecker, that I think was over at the 4-H center. Carolina wren, that's at Chickapin Trail. This is off of a marsh somewhere in Rockingham County, this wood duck. This is, I've had a lot of people say again, that was a lucky shot. Well, that lucky shot was getting up at 4:30 in the morning in the rain, getting to a spot that I had scouted out, sitting there from about 5 o'clock until, you know, light was coming in. And, but it was really worth it. For me, I just love that shot right there. This is goldfinch that was on the wildflowers at Chickapin Trail. This is a kinglet at the High Rock Ford Trail. Bluebird, I think, at Chickapin. The name of this bird, for whatever reason, wants to escape me. I was looking at it last night going like, why can't you come to me? So if anybody recognizes the name of that, they can send it to Tiffany and say, hey, this is a pileated woodpecker, and it is one of my very favorite subjects. And I chase them all the time, and they're so hard to get. And I was walking down the Chickapin Trail not too long, last year sometime, heard them in the distance. They were chatting. They got a very specific call and rounded the bend, and there was a pair of them. But this one is just, really enjoy getting this one. These are some flowers this spring. You know, the thing, even with the COVID, I tried to stay outside and stay engaged, and between the insects and the flowers, you know, and this is the thing about the Dan River Basin. You just have so much variety of subjects, you know, and with the changing seasons, there's always something that you can do, or subjects that you can go. And this is one of those times when I decided, you know, today I'm going to go out and photograph flowers or blooms, and, you know, just to see what comes out. Now, dandelions, the thing I've noticed about dandelions this year, and I don't know why I never thought about it before much, they all are different. They all have a unique design. It's kind of like snowflakes. And, you know, so it's whatever time of year this was, I think it's spring, I just had a wonderful time just photographing dandelions and seeing what the, you know, different designs were. Jack in the Pulpit. Some of these are from a trail at Rockingham Community College. Some of these are at Tally Branch in Wentworth. A friend of mine said, hey, you're not going to believe, they had just tons of them on their creek, and they were gracious enough to invite me down to take some photographs. And just, I was on all of these. I don't know what it is about them, but I had the best time photographing them. These are some of the waterfalls in the Dan River Basin. A lot of people think you've got to go to the western part of North Carolina to find waterfalls, but they are great waterfalls found in this region. This is Window Falls at Hanging Rock. This is the waterfall that's on the trail at Rockingham Community College. That again is Window Falls. This is Hidden Falls at Hanging Rock. This is the Lower Cascades, right before you get into the Hanging Rock Park, or the entrance to where most everybody goes. This is the Upper Cascades. This is Torrey Falls up in the Hanging Rock area. This is the waterfall at Matrimony Creek at the end of Matrimony Trail in Eden. This was following a really good rain. And one of my favorite spots, favorite waterfalls, is the waterfall at Falls Creek Falls. I just love it. It's been a great discovery. I love going there. You don't have to drive all the way to the western part of North Carolina to find some great waterfalls. And recently some people asked me where some waterfalls were, and I said, hey man, they are nearby. You'll have a great time. It's a great outdoor outing. And this is near Jacobs Creek, and I don't know the name of that. Eggleston Falls up near Ridgeway. Another great discovery. It's got a great trail leading up to it. I think at one time, you know, you probably couldn't even have gotten back in there. One of the things I love about whenever I go somewhere and I see that Dan River Basin logo or tag, I know I'm in a good spot. I absolutely love going there. This is another thing that I really enjoy doing is doing photo journaling of events. And you know, when we had all the high water, the huge rains that we had not too long ago, I think this is the Dan River. This is the Mebane Bridge. This is that's actually the golf course in Eden. Of course, this is on the Smith River. And this is the old train trestle. This is at Governor Moorhead's Park. That spillway right there. Water was flowing through there at a good pace. This is I think that's the Smith River landing. Of course, this is the Governor Moorhead Park. I think that's at the Leaksville landing, and it's just incredible how high that water was. And this was the Falls Creek Falls after a real good heavy rain. I think this was up on the Mayo again. This is a shot from the bridge going into Eden on 87. That's Fieldcrest Mills. And of course, that's the Mayo River, again, after a good hard rain. Now, some of my favorite locations other than the Dan River Basin this is a wild horse on Carrot Island. This is a bald eagle on the James River up in Virginia. There's a stretch that they have about 5 or 6 residential pair of bald eagles that nest there year round. I was able to get on a pontoon boat with a group of photographers, and we floated down that river, and it was just amazing. This is probably one of my favorite shots. This was taken at Huntington Beach State Park. This pair of, they're actually in love, even though they got each other by the throat. I was photographing some waterfowl there's a causeway there at Huntington Beach. The female flew and lit right beside me, and as I turned, I couldn't even get a shot because she was so close. And then the male lit right behind her, and then they both just flew straight up in the air, and that's the resulting shot that I got. And it's just one of those moments when you're a wildlife photographer that you just really appreciate given that opportunity to get a shot like that. This is a painted bunting. The most colorful bird that comes to North Carolina. I think they migrate thousands of miles from Peru, I think, or somewhere like that in South America. But most colorful bird that we'll find in North America, I think. One of the most colorful and one of the most elusive birds. The males are very shy. It took me forever to figure out how to get close to them. First time I saw one, they were on the ground at Carolina Beach Trail. And as I would walk towards it, try to get closer, it would fly away and down the path and all that. Did some research, and it said that the females will nest close to the water, and the males will stay high in the trees, and they'll come down and check on the females, and that the males are very territorial. So the next time I went out, I found the females and their nest, and I just sat there for 15 minutes, and sure enough, here comes the male to check on the female. And this is one of my favorite shots of them because it just captured all their color. And as I mentioned earlier, your settings, your aperture setting is what gets this blurred background, and it really highlights the subject. So what you want to do is open your aperture as wide as you can. Of course, with everything else working in concert, your shutter speed and your ISO, hopefully gets a great shot. So one of my favorite. Another one of my favorite subjects are the elk in North Carolina. This is up at Econo-Lefty. And this is another one of those that people say, man, that was a lucky shot. Well, had gone up there, been watching this herd. There are 3 or 4 herds now that you'll find. One is at Econo-Lefty, one's at Cataloochee Valley, and some up on the Blue Ridge Parkway. But you've got to study their habits, and one of the habits was they'll lay down in fields, and early in the mornings, they'll start to come out of the field. So the night before, I decided that, I'm going to go be there early before sunrise at this field. And when I got there, you couldn't see anything. And I was beginning, as the sun was coming up, I was beginning to think, well, didn't plan this one out just right. And all of a sudden, this fella raises up out of the field, out of the fog, out of the mist, and he was pretty magnificent. This is also at a time when there are the rut, and these guys are bugling. And this guy was the alpha male this year, this past season. I hadn't been up there this year yet, but pretty soon I hope to be back up that way. But they are so impressive. But you have to study their habits, know where they're going to migrate from the woods to down to get some water, and then they'll go over to the fields. And if you're out near the visitor center at Econo-Lefty, a lot of times you see them in those fields out there. But when they're in those fields, it's hard to get close to them. They, of course, the park people don't want you to go out in the fields. So anyway, this is absolutely one of my favorite shots. This was 2 of the wild mustangs on
I am so sorry, everyone. I am not sure what just happened. We seem to have lost Gordon again. We are coming up on the end of the presentation, and I will get him to record the last few minutes. I don't know if he'll be able to come on. We're ending in 10 minutes anyway. If you want to send me any questions, I'll be happy to share them with Gordon. Natalie, I have your question, and I also have, I can also have Gordon send that to you. It looks like Gordon is coming back for a few minutes. If Natalie, you want to stay on, I'll be happy to ask him that question. Gordon, are you with us?
I am with you. I'm sorry about that. We had another flicker.
Yeah, it said that your screen said low battery, so I was wondering if you had lost. But we are at the end of our session, so there is a question about you. If you don't have a micro lens, what is the best way to photograph close-ups of flowers?
You know, I think if you'll look at your focal points, sometimes you may want to use a single focus point or a group focal point. Depends on your camera. Yeah, all these cameras now have some different changes to them. You know, think about your composition, your angle of lighting. You know, is the light behind you? Is it in front of you? And just take a few shots and evaluate what you've done, and just keep looking at it. You can get some good shots without having a micro lens for sure. And that's all. You know, just being steady. You know, try to. The higher another really good tip is you want your shutter speed to be at least the length of your lens that you're using. For example, if I'm using a 150 to 600 lens, I want my shutter speed to be at least 1/600. If I'm using a 70 to 300, I want the shutter speed to be at least 1/300. Have the other two things working in harmony, but at least that. And so if you're using a 70 to 300 zoom lens to try to get pictures of flowers, make sure your shutter speed is at least 1/300. That might help them. And you know, if they're using a 35 millimeter prime lens, you know, make sure your shutter speed is exceeding at least the length of that barrel.
Okay, thank you. Actually, Gordon, would you mind turning on your video? I also, you know, I don't know about the rest of the participants, but I felt like I just traveled to another world. Your photographs are not only beautiful to look at, but I think that what makes you such an amazing photographer is it makes people feel something. I felt calm. I felt embraced by nature, and I think that's how that's what really makes you such an amazing photographer. And I hope that you know, when I go out there next, I will absolutely take your tips.
Well, this was definitely the Reader's Digest version.
Oh my goodness. I can't imagine how many beautiful ones you have. We could probably do a whole week's worth of seeing your amazing artwork. But I did want to make mention that your giftable artwork is available at Mishmash Gifts and Accessories in Reidsville, North Carolina. And there's also a business at Harker's Island, North Carolina. And for all of you who had a great time seeing Gordon's photographs, he shares a lot on his Facebook page. So definitely follow him on Facebook. Gordon, did you want to add anything to that?
I don't know if this last slide is showing or if I got the thing back up, but
The share, you are not sharing a screen now.
Okay, all right. So anyway, what it says is have fun doing your photography. If you're not having fun, you're not doing it right. So have fun when you go out there. You know, that's the main thing. Main thing is the main thing, and that main thing is to have fun. So.
We did have one more question just come in. Is a micro lens the same as a macro, or is it something different?
Absolutely. Those are interchangeable.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So.
Well, I think that covers our Q&A and our chats. Anyone have anything else? Some great comments here about so wonderful to have this chance to hear you speak about all your adventures and get to see all your amazing photographs.
Well, that's very kind of them. So, and I enjoy doing it. You know, and like you said, I do post a lot of stuff on Facebook. My daughter actually encouraged me to post some on Facebook. I wasn't a big Facebook fan, but I posted some years ago, and the responses were so great. Decided that I'd like to share them like that. So, yeah, send me a friend request if we're not friends, and be looking forward to seeing you on a trail somewhere in the Dan River Basin.
All right, hold on. We have one more message that came in. Just a thank you. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. We'll have our next Lunch with Darba the last Wednesday of October. And that topic is a big surprise. So we'll see you soon. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day and go out and shoot lots of pictures. All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Stephanie. Bye-bye.